Neymar is one of the most gifted players of this or any other generation. His playing style, personality, and the decisions that have shaped his career also make him one of the most polarizing athletes of recent times. But is he also one of the unluckiest players that we've ever known? In February 2023, Neymar was stretchered off the pitch following a tackle in a game against Lille. His club, Paris Saint-Germain, decided that the best option was surgery, and that the most expensive player in the history of the sport would be out of action for 4 months and the rest of the season. It meant that he would miss PSG's tie with Bayern Munich in the Champions League, during which they would be eliminated. The injury was also the same ankle that he injured during the World Cup, when he was forced out of Brazil's group game with Serbia. He would return later in the tournament, but not quite at full fitness or effect, and Brazil would be eliminated far earlier than they should have been. It's an important sequence that characterises an aspect of Neymar's career. He has repeatedly suffered injuries at moments which typically define how a player is remembered, at World Cups and Copa Americas, and during Champions League campaigns. Moreover, those injuries have repeatedly occurred through robust tackling or the physical attention that he attracts during games, either as a response to his technical ball-carrying playing style or as a preemptive measure to negate his considerable threat. The World Cup game against Serbia was a pertinent example. Neymar was fouled 9 times during that game before having to be replaced. No other Brazilian player was fouled more than once. In the game against Lille, his injury was an accident, but it was still the result of a barging tackle from an opponent which had no hope of winning the ball, and which resulted in his ankle being bent at a horrible angle. Neymar as a player is perceived in many ways. As having made a poor decision in leaving Barcelona in 2017, he's often accused of being egotistical or self-indulgent too, and of not being as committed to his career as he might be. But it's impossible to argue that he hasn't paid a significant physical price for his talent, or that, in that regard, fate has been very cruel to him. And 2014 is a good place to start, the prelude to the World Cup in Brazil. Neymar, then a Barcelona player, suffered a badly twisted ankle in a Copa del Rey game against Getafe, and would miss over a month of football. 2 months to the day of his return, in the final of the same competition against Real Madrid, a challenge would leave him with a metatarsal injury that would end his domestic season. Between the new year and the beginning of his home World Cup, Neymar had missed 14 games, hardly a preparation likely to leave him fully fit. And at the tournament itself, he suffered a fractured vertebra against Colombia, after ژoئen Zúñiga kneed him in the base of the spine. Brazil progressed, but Neymar's tournament was over before Germany humiliated his teammates. And this was to be a pattern, especially during the PSG part of his career, when Champions Leagues and World Cups grew in importance. His decision to depart Camp Nou would only look wise in hindsight if he was able to win one of those trophies. That he hasn't managed to meet those objectives isn't solely attributable to injury, but his misfortune has been uncanny, perhaps even unprecedented. In January 2018, during his first season in France, he simultaneously suffered a hairline fracture of his 5th metatarsal and another ankle sprain against Marseille. It was a freak incident, but it required surgery and saw him miss 3 months of football, ruling him out of PSG's Champions League tie with Real Madrid, in which they would be soundly beaten. Worse still, it was a World Cup year. Neymar limped into Russia 2018 having barely played, and he and Brazil were knocked out by Belgium in the quarterfinals, having made little impression. By the age of 26, 2 World Cups had been and gone, and Neymar had been unable to put his best foot forward in either. And it would get worse. In 2019, he would miss a total of 212 days through injury, and the year began with uncanny familiarity with another metatarsal injury, suffered almost a year to the day from the last one. This time, it was the result of a hacking challenge by Strasbourg's Moita Zemzemi, and again, it would require surgery. Once more, he would miss a critical Champions League tie. PSG would suffer a meek defeat, this time to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's Manchester United, and unfortunately, again, injury would rob him of an international tournament. Neymar missed the 2019 Copa America through an ankle ligament injury suffered during a friendly against Qatar. To confound his misfortune, Brazil would host and win the tournament without him. A heavily disrupted 2019 gave way to a relatively tranquil 2020, during which Neymar and PSG won a domestic treble and were only narrowly beaten by Bayern Munich in the Champions League final. But that, of course, was a brief respite. 2021 would bring a litany of abductor injuries and end, predictably, with another ankle injury. This time after he was tackled from behind in a game against Saint-Etienne in November, resulting in gruesome pictures and almost 3 months out. He wouldn't return until February 2022, another year that would end with a disrupted World Cup, but also serve as a prelude to the current serious injury from which he's yet to return. The catalogue of injuries offers a different prism through which to view his career, and they need an important context too, including the understanding of how ankle joints weaken with cumulative damage and the acceptance that skillful ball carriers have always been targeted. Nevertheless, regardless of those factors and some of the legitimate criticism that Neymar has attracted, his pursuit of greatness has still been obstructed by incredibly badly timed injuries and all sorts of misfortune.